My name is Nicole Russell, and I am going to be presenting The Car Crash Experiment by Elizabeth Loftus and John Palmer that took place in 1974 at the University of California in Irvine. So here you can see a picture of a car crash, and this is actually kind of the central of this whole experiment is car crashes. So let's go ahead and look at this experiment. So, the main goal of this experiment was created to test whether the wording of questions in a certain way would affect a person's recall of an event. And in particular, this experiment was looking at eyewitnesses and what an eyewitness account would be like and how it might or might not have changed depending on how someone questioned the eyewitness. So there's actually two different experiments that were conducted in this experiment. So the first experiment involved 45 American students from Washington University, and they were shown seven different films of traffic accidents, ranging in duration from 5 to 30 seconds. After they watched these different films of the accidents, they were then questioned as if they were actually eyewitnesses that had seen the accident occur in real time. And they were questioned in very specific ways. So they were asked several different questions about the different accidents. However, the question that was studied was the following question. So, about how fast were the cars going when they blink? So, in the blank, they were asked either smashed, collided, bumped, hit, or contacted each other. So, of all of these different five verbs, each respondent was asked this question, and only one of those verbs was asked of the respondent. So, the independent variable in this experiment is the wording that was used with the participant. So, for example, either smashed, collided, bumped, hit, or contacted. The dependent variable was actually the speed that the participant stated. So this was testing specifically if a certain word would tend to be given with a higher or a lower speed. So here are the results. So here in these results, we can see all of the five different verbs at the bottom of the chart. And then we see the speed along the left side going up on the y-axis. So for contacted to smashed, you can see that there's a gradual increase in the miles per hour that was given. So contacted was the lowest, and 32 miles per hour was the average speed that was given when a respondent was questioned that how fast were the cars going when they contacted each other. However, this is in contrast to the verb smashed. So when respondents were questioned about how fast were the vehicles going when they smashed into each other, you can see that the average speed given was around 41 miles per hour. So contact and hit were similar, and collided and smashed were similar, with bumped being somewhere in the middle road. But from these results, we can see that it is clear that if an interviewer uses these influencing type of words, the eyewitness is prone to respond in a certain manner. So if you say contacted each other, the respondent is more prone to feel that the speed wasn't quite as fast. But if you say collided or smashed into each other, the respondent is more prone to think that the accident is more serious and then consequently responded with a higher speed. So now we're going to move on to experiment two. And in experiment two, what the investigators wanted to do was test whether certain words lead to the participant having a perception of the accident being more serious. And then this perception would then be stored in the person's memory. So, this is what they're testing. So, to do this, they took 150 students and they showed them a 1 minute film of a car driving in the countryside, followed immediately by 4 seconds of multiple car crashes. Now, these 150 students were divided into groups of 50, and then they were asked about how fast were the cars going when they blanked each other. So they were either asked smashed, collided, bumped. Actually, they were asked only and um, smashed and contact or smashed and hit, I believe, in this experiment. So, and what happened was one group was asked smashed, the other group was asked hit, and then the third group was actually serving as the control group and was not asked a question at all. So moving on to the results, actually 1 week later, then respondents were then asked several questions, and then the critical question that was being studied was they asked them, "Did you see any broken glass?" So they didn't show the film again, so they had to rely on the first showing of the film a week earlier. And in that film, there wasn't any broken glass. So the response should have been that they didn't see any broken glass because there wasn't any broken glass in the actual films that they showed them. But you can see here in the results. So we have smashed and we have hit. And those respondents that were asked the question with smashed, you can see that 16 people out of 50 said that they did see broken glass, and then 34 did not. But of the hit group, you can see that 7 people saw broken glass and 43 people did not. But in the control group, it was quite similar to hit, in which 6 people saw broken glass and 44 people did not. So, in conclusion, it is clear from the results that people who were asked the smashed verb tended to respond that they saw broken glass in the film, basically inventing the memory, more so than respondents who were asked the other verb of hit or the control. So it's clear that the questioning technique can cause people to have a perception of something being more serious than it is. So that leads us to our conclusion and our evaluation. So, the way an interviewer questions a respondent can clearly sway the way the respondent will recall an event. This is such a critical learning point that we garnered from this experiment. These influencing type of words can cause a person's perception to be stored in their memory for later recall. So, like I was saying, it's just a very important experiment that this taught us because it taught us how being completely unbiased and questioning technique is crucial in order to get an accurate eyewitness account. So, if we are using leading or influencing type of words within our questioning technique, that is obviously going to bias our eyewitness account, and that's not something that we want to do. So obviously something, and this is something that would be readily used in the courts, and I'm sure that the transcripts that police officers use when questioning witnesses is something that lawyers will really pinpoint. And this experiment is something that they may refer to. I'm sure there has been many legal case studies in which they probably refer to this experiment and object to the questioning technique maybe that was used in a certain case. So, word choice should not lead a respondent to answer one way or another. It should be completely unbiased just to try to get the accurate accounting of the event. So, in this experiment, there really wasn't any ethical considerations. I think this experiment used film footage and did not submit any participants to any undue stress. And also, the experiment actually was very valuable information that really helped us to understand how best to question eyewitnesses in order to get accurate eyewitness accounts. So that is my evaluation of the car crash experiment. Thank you so much for listening. And these are the references for the presentation that I just presented. So we have several different references. You can see there's a variety of different references, a couple of different things um, to see simply psychology and different references there for you to see. Thank you so much for listening.